All right, time to see if this thing's working. It is, it's working, that's unreal. Good morning. It has been a wild morning here as I scoop all of the water out of my flooding basement. But welcome to the very first stream of Flashing Badger Painting live on YouTube. And I'm gonna get straight into it. I had a huge plan about all the different things I'd talk about to start with, but I'm a bit rattled because I was in inch deep water down here. But here's the setup. And here's what I want to paint today. The name of the stream, Space Cat Where You At, is a nod to this little fella, who is the... I'll zoom in, we'll have a look. That's the first player marker for the Nemesis board game. Do you know what a Nemesis is? Sucks about the basement, man. Yeah, it does. I got up like half an hour early and I was like, oh, I'll slowly get settled. I'll have a shower, make myself a cuppa. And then as I opened the basement door, it was water everywhere. And I went, no. So the little machine that I have to pump all the water out has absolutely died. So farewell, it served me well. But I got a good workout in as I scooped up all the water before I got to start my painting. So any excuse not to have to go to the gym, I'll take it. And that was it. How's it sound? Is the audio coming through fine? And yeah, so Space Cat is what I've decided to paint. I figured I'd pick something a bit more straightforward, not too crazy. Yeah, man, you're good. Unreal. Thanks, dude. Also, wow, massive shout out, MT Speedcrafts in the house. Absolutely love your channel. Your dioramas are amazing. And every time I see one of your thumbnails pop up in my feed, I get pretty excited. And I don't have those skills. I can paint tiny little minis every now and then, but I can't put together a diorama and a set like you do. It is absolutely phenomenal. So the setup that I've got, check this out. We can go straight to paint cam. Oh yeah. And we can play around with the zoom and check out the Pussycat. And then should it ever be required, huge close up. You're making me blush. No, seriously, man, your channel is amazing. All right. Should have brought a towel. Okay. I'm going to jump straight in. I've given myself pretty much an hour to see how I go with painting. And I don't like my odds of actually being able to finish this mini. But if I can get started on it and make it look pretty cool, I'll be happy. All right. Now, I've conceded the fact that it may get to the point where no one's actually watching the stream, but I'm going to talk anyway. We have... So what time is it over where you are? You're in the middle of America? Is that where Arizona is? I know that's where Phoenix, I'm trying to think of my American knowledge here, the Phoenix Suns, Glendale, Arizona. That's about the extent of my Arizona knowledge. Other than it's a massive desert. 2:07 p.m. Awesome. Well, it's dark and it's wet here, so I'd trade it happily. But yeah. What do you got for me? What are you working on today? Have you got a side project? Something that you're hustling? By the way, for the chat, what do we got? I've got a small amount of Xandri dust. I figure I'll start by painting the fur of the cat. So I've picked Xandri dust because I reckon if I try and paint some yellows or oranges over these darker colors, it just won't work. So I'm going to start with this color purely to act as a midway point where I can then come over the top with orange. Simon Woodhouse. Last minute editing. Yeah, nice, man. Good luck. I am so slow at editing. I've watched a heap of videos online to try and get quicker, and it's made a difference, but it still takes me about a week just to edit. So good luck. And Woody, how are you? Early morning for you, my friend. So you'll notice that I've already put some colors on the Space Cat. I've got blues, pinks and purples. I did a video about it for the Cthulhu minis, where I got the idea from Ninjan, who got the idea from someone else, who probably got it from someone else again. But the idea being that you put these down as your shadows, even though they're not going to be the colors that you use at all. For the rest of the model. And then other than the fur, because the fur is probably too detailed for me to do on this stream, but when I'm painting the rest of my layers, I'm going to leave those shadows below, even if they end up being lighter colors. You'll get this really mystic horror, but still vibrant look to it. So that's my plan today, is to have the space suit, everything, maybe the creams, the silvers and all that over the top, but still showing through in the recess areas. The purples, the blues, to try and make it look like this cat is part of the spooky space station. That's my goal. Dog gets up at 6:30, daylight savings. Yeah, fair enough. Yes, our dogs are similar. Big, goofy dogs. And they dictate the pace of the rest of our households. But anything exciting from you today, Wood Duck? All right, so I'm just getting these base layers on, trying to be neat, but also just trying to get it done. I've thinned the paint a little so that when it goes on, I don't lose too much detail. There's all those fur and that. If I put a base paint straight on and I do a couple of layers, then I can start to lose all that cool detail that's on the sculpt. So I think my socks are wet from when I was getting all the water out. But I didn't want to just leave it sitting on a waiting screen the whole time. So I figure I can paint with wet socks. You see me look around every now and then. I'm nervous that the internet or something's going to drop, so I'm just checking how it's going with the YouTubes. But I might even zoom in a bit. You can see a bit better what I'm doing. Oh, and let's use that as an opportunity to cut to camera. So I picked a spot that's sort of in the shadows to try and paint, which isn't ideal. But you can see I've already gone through the paws, the tail, and now just the face of the cat. And then I reckon I'll come over the top with some oranges and then a wash. And then I'll see how I feel about trying to get a highlight. But I am keen just to start on the suit because I reckon I can make the suit look all right. So Nemesis is a board game from, I think it's Awaken Realms. It is Awaken Realms. It was behind me on the shelf. Which is pretty much along the lines of Alien, where you're all in a space station. There's some critters that are loose. You're meant to work together as a team, but there's also some hidden agendas that makes people turn on each other. And we absolutely love it. It's a funny game, which ended in people getting sent out of airlocks when they didn't want to. So I think one of their Kickstarter stretch goals was this cat, just to act as the first player marker, but also because it's funny. I thought I'd paint him up and then think of a cool name for him. Something like Mittens or Cosmic Mittens. I think of a cliche cat name. So, all right. that's pretty much what I'll do just for the base of the fur. That way I can get started on oranges. So while I'm getting this set up, I'll chat about the painting setup that I've got in case there's anyone that's new to mini painting and is keen. The most important thing is the lights, probably. I've got a huge light over on this side. Is that the same game Dingles trapped me in with the alien? Yes, with the Queen Alien. Yes, absolutely. Dingles had some special power of being able to manipulate the computers to control the doors of the spaceship. And I don't even know if that was his hidden agenda or if he just has a vendetta against you. But yes, locked you in a room with the Queen Alien, which bought the rest of us some time to effect an escape. And I don't even know if we escaped in the end, so I think it was just petty. But yeah, that game. Yeah, so huge lighting on this side. I've got lighting on that side, but that one's probably normally overhead so that I get light all the way around the Mini and I can see what I'm doing. But if you just have a nice LED light that you get from your local whatever store, that'll work. And if you can have it sort of sitting above, and my one's about that long, and I have that over the top of my Mini, it gives me great light. And then the wet palette. So this bad boy here, what I don't want to be doing is painting straight from the pot because these paints are really thick. And if you start applying that straight to the model, then it's like all claggy and it'll cover up all the details and it ends up with this really patchy, chalky look, which isn't nice. So there's just a plastic dish. It's got a piece of sponge. And then on top of that is a piece of parchment paper. And then you pop your paint on top of that. And then you mix it with a tiny bit of water or thinner or whatever you're using. I'm just using water at the moment. And I just thin that down. And then it can go on in layers. And then it ends up being smoother and nicer. Is the theory. And then I just make mistakes. And I can't even hide now that it's live. Because otherwise I just keep doing it until I get it right. And now I'm going to make mistakes. And the jig will be up. All right, let's see if his paws have dried. Yeah, kind of. We'll zoom back in. Let's have a look at his paws. So the color that I want is orange. But to get there, I'm going to go through another transition because orange is really difficult to paint with. I can't believe I started with it. I'm a fool. So this is a lighter red or a dark orange, however you want to describe it. And then I'll come over the top with a lighter orange again. So as I mentioned before, if I just tried to paint the light orange on top of this, then it would just seep into all the cracks. It wouldn't cover over the top. It'd be see-through. It'd be horrible. So you got to work your way slowly through different colors to get there. But if orange was going to be the dominant color of your model, then you'd probably even start by spraying white or a really light color as your base. And then it's easier to paint over the top. Because I've only got a little bit, I'm happy to endure to start with. And normally it'll dry quickly, but I've made my paint quite thin, so it'll take a little bit to dry. So I'll probably do bits and then come back to it. Also, it's not very warm down here. I don't know if I've mentioned that. I'm sure it being damp down here won't help. Hopefully I mentioned it already, but thank you, both of you, for jumping in to say hi to me this morning. One of my fears was obviously that I'd hop online and there'd be no one, and that I'd talk to myself. But there we go. So I'm happy that I've got a bit of a base layer going with the orange. I'll come back to it because I want to start on something more entertaining. I think I'll jump across and I might start on the spacesuit. It is slowly flooding, Woody. Send help. Do you know any volunteers? So for the spacesuit, I want to do cream colours and then have that blue, pink and purple shining through. So I've got a bone colour to start with, which may end up being too light, but I want to give it a go. Because if it goes on, then that'll save me time from the other layers. And it's a pretty good paint, so I'll roll the dice. So this one is U-Sharp Debone, but there are so many good bone colours out there that you don't have to match paints just by name or brand. You'll be fine. And even though I'm only going to use like 6 paints or something today, I've got about 50 sitting next to me because I panicked that I'd need one and I wouldn't have it in front of me. Cool. So, got my paint, I've thinned it down, and I'm going to pick a starting point somewhere sort of out of the way that if I've made a terrible mistake, I can cover it up pretty easy. And even though it's a base coat that's going on, I'm practicing my layers now because I can't just cover everything. I need to keep that purple, pink and blue underneath. So now you'll start to see what I mean. Space Cat, where you at? There we go. So it's going to go on like this, and then once I've covered the spacesuit, I come back and do the next layer over the top and the next layer over the top of slowly getting brighter colours and just catching less and less of the suit each pass I go. And it should, in theory, bring out a nice highlight across the suit. And if I want to do textures to make it look more fabric, then I'm just going to change the way I brush as I get to those layers. That rather than these smooth lines, I'll do some more short, sharp, jagged ones in different directions. And it should give the effect that it's a fabric. But I don't know how spacesuits work. Well, particularly spacesuits for cats. There we go, that's working pretty well. I wonder if the chat works for me. Let's have a look. See if we can get a... I wonder if that worked. Oh yeah, it's pretty important. That is a picture of a badger dabbing. So the brushes that I'm using, if you can't see, it's called Rosemary & Co. is the brand. And what I love about them is they're affordable, but still really good. There's no paid promotions or anything here, I can assure you. I'm not at that level. But I see a lot of talk online of people using these amazing brushes and they're paying heaps and heaps of money for them. And especially for me, like I'm not at the level where I need an incredible brush or I notice the difference or there's enough of a difference to warrant me spending big money. So these are sort of lower to mid-range brushes. I buy a handful at a time and I find they last me absolutely ages. So I've had these for probably 6 months and still going. So you just find what works for you. Some of the companies that make the minis release their own brushes, the larger companies, if you will, and their brushes, I find it the same, but just because they got their name on them, they're quite pricey. So what else can I chat about? About what's coming up for the channel. Ooh, yeah. So, I've got, the way I work is, check out this bloke, shilling for the brush industry. Hello, Michael Wegman. Good morning, how are you? I think it's obvious that the people to jump on early are people I know. But that was unreal. So that dude earlier, by the way, MT Speedcrafts has his own channel, which I'll be plugging, and he does dioramas. I'm sure I could come up with a better descriptive term. He designs and creates incredible dioramas with no set theme. He'll just pick something different each time. He did one of a German U-boat that's half sunk in a sub pen, and it looks absolutely amazing. And so his channel started around the same time as mine. And so I recognized him when he popped up, and I was like, oh my God. And there's a whole bunch of people like that I'm secretly wanting to team up with one day. So keep an eye out for that. Morning, Wigs. Are you taking any models to PAX? To paint or to display or anything? Either way, probably no. So PAX is the Penny Arcade Expo, which is really big in the US, and for the last however many years has been coming to Melbourne as well. The Mad Lads and I also attend. Absolutely love it. So we normally go as a group, just hang out, play board games, and eat sour straps. They're probably the main set highlights. But no, I don't intend on doing any painting at PAX. Unless you guys want to sit down and paint, in which case, obviously, I will happily paint. And not to display either. Whenever I take my models to display, I'm quickly humbled by how bad I am at painting. And also, I'm the type of Goomba that will forget my model, lose my model, break my model, and then be sad. So, I won't take any models to PAX, but I will take board games and plenty of dollar coins for sour straps. And this year, I think we're also going to take tiny humans with us to PAX. So that is cool. And importantly, we'll try and make some merch again. Not to sell, this is merch just for us to wear as a laugh. But I reckon this should also be the year that we dress up. I've gone as Randy Macho Man Savage before. It was nice of everyone else not to dress up, and I looked like an absolute fool. But I think this year I'll go as Special Sources. Remember that guy? So I might do that. Might steal that idea. Oh, by the way, we now got 7 people viewing apparently. That's unreal. I mean, I should lie, because on the replay they might not know. Hey, we got 87 people viewing. But if you're there, let me know where you're from. It'll give me something to chat about as well. I'll start doing a stand-up routine based on where everyone lives. So, for those that have just joined as well, this is Space Cat. This is the first player marker for a board game called Nemesis. And I've decided to paint him up on stream as something different. Because I thought it'd be nice and easy. Something I can chat to you while I paint. And I thought it'd be interesting that rather than painting in the normal style that I'm comfortable with, I'm going to try this, where I have the blues, purples, and pinks as my shadows, and they're already in place. And then I start painting layers over the top, trying to keep the shadows behind. So I'll even cut to... Ooh, what is this? Boonydale says 07. 7, but yeah, I was thinking that Wegman's guy is a bot. Ah. Yeah, that Wegman guy. I'm still a bit sus. He gives very generic answers to everything. Wegman, I need you to prove you're not a bot. Tell me something emotional that a robot wouldn't understand. But also, let's not discourage the bots. If I get this thing loaded up with bots and it makes me feel popular, hey, I'll take it. Bots and trolls are not the same thing. Thanks for being here to troll. Again, I'll take the attention. All right. Well, lucky I didn't do my face as like the big camera, because it'd just be me like this for pretty much the whole stream. At some point, I'm going to cut to me full screen. Give the people what they want. But let's have a look at Space Cat. So it's not the prettiest layers when you start, and I've always said that base painting is the worst part of painting. You need to find a way just to switch off and relax and get through it, because your model doesn't look very pretty at this stage. You're just getting the base colours on. And this is the part of painting that can be really discouraging. That you look at this and that's already how much work? 20 minutes work. I gotta paint quicker. And the layers aren't very pretty to start with because it's a lighter paint. It's that bone color. You can see, especially all through here, that it needs another layer before it starts to look a bit nicer. We'll touch up around his paws. Touch up his paws. But I am keen to start on some highlights for this. The awesome cat you're painting, thank you. Astro. Yeah, I think it was Astro or Cosmic Mittens or Super Space Puss. I can't remember what we did come up with, but we were trying to name him in our last game. So, I'm doing bone colors for the spacesuit. I don't know why. I also picture the cat to be Russian or Eastern European. The helmet, I'll probably go for greys or silver. And then this great big oxygen tube. That is so much oxygen for a cat. But that will be dark colors, maybe dark greys. Super Space Puss was my nickname in high school. That also reminds me that I won't just read everything that pops up in the chat. That's a trap. Oh, I'm just so glad I got my cup of coffee in time. Triple shot long black, you know what I mean? All right. Oh yeah, so I was mentioning as well some other things that are coming up for the channel. The way that I usually go about making my videos is I'll have 2 or 3 ideas in the works at any time, because some of them require on me sending stuff away or waiting for things to arrive. So I figured I'd talk about that now as a special treat to anyone who's jumped into the stream. But I've got a collaboration that'll come out in the next day or two. And that one I'm really excited about. Back to work, Howie, thank you. And that is me turning a painting guide for orcs into a fun collaboration with another person in the hobby who's far more talented than me. I've been so lucky, I don't know if you guys saw, but I got to work with Mini Wargaming, where I painted a model for them. So rather than just a commission job, this is just a straight fun. They have a channel, I have a channel, let's work together. And that's one of my goals for this year, is to try and work with a few more people in the hobby, because it makes it so much more entertaining rather than me just sitting down to paint. We get to come up with ideas. All right, so the second layer is coming on really well now. You can see there, the purples in that remain in the shadows, and it's starting to look a bit smoother. Some other video ideas is, rather than just painting tutorials, even though they seem to be the videos on the channel that do well, which makes sense, it's a painting channel. Gordo's doing some 3D painting for me. We're looking at decorating the set behind me with some sci-fi related or just cool looking pieces. So Gordo has 3D printed me something, and when he finally comes back into the country, I'll steal it off him and paint that up, but make it into a cool video about how you can 3D print yourself and what things you can come up with to decorate your hobby space. What else? I've got another vehicle for Warhammer upstairs that I want to kit bash, probably for the orcs. I won't try my orc impression, it's terrible. All right, I'm pretty happy with these layers. If I was painting on my own and there was no pressure, I'd take a bit longer and keep doing the layers, but I'd love to have something at the end of the hour that actually looks like I sat down to paint. What else have I got? Oh yeah, so 10th edition for Warhammer 40k is announced, and I promised my wife I'd stop buying minis for myself, but I really want to paint Blood Angels. As the army I had as a kid, and I love them, they look so cool. And then I did that Blood Angels painting guide last week or the week before, and one of the styles in that, the grim dark one with the stippling to make it look like they're really weathered, I absolutely love that, and I'd love to paint an army like that. It would take me ages, but it's on my list of things I'm considering. So if you'd be interested, I was thinking of different ways I could do it if I was to collect an army, because that'd take up a heap of time. So I'd have to make it work for the channel as well. Do I do the odd live stream that just captures my journey through starting a new army? Or do I make the odd larger video, like I do with my normal videos, painting guides, but center it around either batch painting or blood angels themselves? Issue with that is, there's only so much I can do because I just keep painting blood angels. So I'll bring the wet palette across and show you what I'm up to now. I have my next color, which is an off-white from Vallejo. So my spacesuit is bone colors leading towards white, but rather than just coming in with a white now, I want that to be the last highlight from where whatever light out in this particular realm of space is illuminating the cat. So I grab it and I mix it with my previous paint, which was the bone color, to give me that highlight. Or my first sort of mid-tone. I don't know, I'm trying to use painting terms, but I don't know enough about painting. All right. So, it's still very wet, but let's see if we can start catching those raised areas. Have we zoomed in enough? Oh, let's go full paint screen. There we go. So something like a spacesuit like this is really easy for us to catch our highlights because you can see all the different contours. And I'm not covering everything, but I'm catching maybe half of what I've already painted. And if there's an area like this, well then I focus on the raised part and then have my thin lines coming back. That's how I highlight. And it is helping as well because the paint's still wet. Normally it wouldn't be. Normally I'd be upstairs, it'd be drier, and I'd be taking my time. But you have more of a cartoony look once it's dry. And I work my way into the next layer. You'd see the obvious change in highlight. But here, because they're wet, I can wet blend them, which means I'm basically just pushing the paints together and it'll do a smoother gradient. Which isn't necessarily what I wanted for the Space Cat. I was happy with the cartoon look, but I'll take this. So all the spots that you can't really see, so down the very bottom of the suit, I won't worry about. I'll just look to more what the viewer is going to be able to see. So the areas up the top. All right, what's another topic? Oh yeah, the stream itself. If you end up watching this back as a replay, because you're not here right now, that's fine. But let me know what you thought of it. Especially the setup, if it was easy enough to see, if the microphone, everything works. Yeah, I'd love to know that it's actually viewable in that sense. And then let me know what you think entertainment-wise. That the design and I guess my goal for it was to have this as a spot that we can hang out and paint. That if you're working on your own projects, you have it in the background, we can chat, we can laugh. And if it just so happens to overlap with something similar that you're painting, we can work through it. But yeah, I figure for other streams, I can look at doing short tutorials where I look at things like rust or what else could I paint really quick? Different effects like metals, I mentioned rust, but if you want a dry brushing, layering, base coating, some sort of guide on something straightforward and simple that I could do within a half hour or an hour, that'd be a cheeky, easy way for us to do a stream. What else have I got? Oh yeah, I pretty much covered the rest. But while we're here, also a very good opportunity for me to thank some people, so I'll do that. I'm grabbing out a few different washes or contrast paints. I'm trying to think what I'm going to do with the cat's fur. I want to get a shade on there to bring back the details of the fur. So I'm going to use a contrast paint just because it should go on quicker and thicker and should dry faster. We'll see if it works. So it's a yellow, but it looks more of an orange. But yeah, while I got the opportunity while we're here, thank you so much to the people that have assisted along the way. So Dingles, you'll hear me refer to a whole bunch. Dingles is a close mate who edited the first 4 or 5 videos that I had. So I couldn't edit, I was terrible. And Dingles sat down, edited them all, and then taught me how to edit. So I put a lot of work in, especially early on. And Dingles still does most of my thumbnails for me, which is why they look really good. The method of luring people in before they see my shoddy paint jobs. But thank you to him. And he helped me so much with this stream that I slugged my way through a bunch of tutorials to work out how to stream and what sort of equipment and effects I needed. And then we sat down yesterday for about an hour or so and tested all the settings to make sure it worked. So thank you to Dingles. Obviously Woody and Wegs in the chat. Oh my God. Oh my God. Paul Godson is here. And also features, if you're wondering, the big pillow up the back with the goggles today. Different artistic work on the pillow every time. But that is Dingles, the Giga Chad apparently that he is, or Dingle Chad. So that's why he gets the homage in the background of every video. Who else? Yeah, Woody, Wegs, Fitz, a group of my mates that are absolute goofballs that encourage me, watch my videos when no one else will. So if a video only gets like 6 views, I know exactly who it is. So thank you, Woody, Wegs and Fitz. Gordo has been on-scene talent as well in a few of the videos. The bat rep and the playing of Cthulhu, Death May Die. He's a very funny man, does some great impressions. So if you haven't seen those videos yet, treat yourself. But the core group of supporters that have been there since the very start, a huge thanks to you. I had remembered a couple off by heart. There was Back to 40k at 40 is unreal. He's on Instagram and encourages me a heap, as well as Black Sword. And the same people tend to pop up in the comments. Obviously my parents. Thanks, Mum. What am I going to paint next? Let's start on the helmet. The other paints aren't drying quick enough, so I want to get stuck into something else. I'll cut to this camera and I'll keep chatting to you. But I'm going to pick out some greys. I don't know what greys yet. I could just use black and white, but I'm being lazy and I'm going to pick out actual greys. And I'm going to start on the helmet. Because how far in are we now? 39 minutes. Yeah, we can finish the cat in time. He couldn't. Let's bring that back. There we go. Is that getting... And thanks to the other content creators and businesses that have actually taken the time, because it is a small channel, and even when I first reached out to them, or if they spoke to me, it was even smaller at the time. So Mini Wargaming, oh my God, incredible. So if you haven't seen that, again, I'll plug it. Josh from Mini Wargaming. I emailed him out of the blue, the classic, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Basically just introduced myself, said that I was a fan, and I've been following them, and that's who got me into the hobby. And that I'd love to somehow be involved. And the ultimate goal was to paint something for them that would then feature on their channel. And Josh could have just said, paint me everything, and I would have done it and sent it over. But he commissioned me to paint Constantine Valdor for the Custodies. I was so lucky. And then, not only that, but then I got to send the model across. He did some videos for me. He plugged it. He put it on the social media. He did all the things he could do to help promote the channel. And that is, if you haven't seen the Mini Wargaming, if you haven't seen them, what are you doing here? Oh my God. Mini Wargaming is a group of Canadian dudes that play board games. So they've done a bit of everything where they do painting and that, but mainly known for their narrative campaigns and bat reps for all different game systems, but mainly Warhammer 40k, Age of Sigmar, Necromunda, Gorka Morka, things like that. And they've got probably over 500,000 to 1 million subscribers. They're the OG content creators in this hobby. Yeah, and I had, at the time, I don't know, probably like 800 subscribers, which is awesome for me. But for them to even entertain the email and the idea shows their level of class and their support in the hobby. So let's have a chat about Space Cat, where you at, or Mittens or Cosmos. I am working my way through painting the helmet. And you can see I'm painting in greys, but all along the edges here, I'm keeping everything in the blues, the purples, and the pinks to keep that cosmic space feel. And then these parts, again, anytime there's a crack or a crevice, that just tells me leave it in the color that it already was and just paint the raised surfaces. I'll do the edge of the helmet. So again, for anyone who's just joined, this is the first player marker from the Kickstarter version of Nemesis, the board game. All right. What else have you guys got for me? Give me a topic or fire a question at me or something, and that'll save me the energy of trying to think of something to chat about. Or just waffling. Oh, back over here, Space Cat. But also, Woody, Wegs, and Dingles, thank you so much for getting up this early on a Sunday when it's cold and wet. And what I think I'll end up doing, you ever paint any bolt action figures? No, but I've had a request for it. Another mate of mine plays, bolt action, and wants me to do something more realistic, which is on my list. And now that you've mentioned it, I reckon I'm going to have to do it. So bolt action is another, I think it's 28mm scale. If not, it's pretty close. Tabletop game, but rather than all this fantasy space business, it's realistic or true history. I don't know what you call it, but I think it's set in World War II. I have an army that I've been putting off painting. Oh, well, I should get a couple, paint them up, do a video, and that'll kick you into gear and give you some ideas. But my favorite part about painting those would be all the weathering. So I love tanks. So having a bunch of old Panzers or Shermans, or I can't name anymore. That's about the extent of my tank knowledge there for World War II. But yeah, that really grimy, rusty, weathered look, like they've been through an arduous campaign, I reckon it'd be really fun to paint. And that's sort of where I started in the hobby with my orcs, is you didn't have to be neat and tidy, which is what I loved about orcs, is I could get some base coats on like this, and then you just go ham with weathering, and you put rust everywhere, and you put streaking grime everywhere. I didn't need any talent to do it, but it ends up looking really cool, and people think that you've painted some amazing model and then weathered it, and I'm like, nah, it looked really shabby. And then I've just spilt all these different chemicals over it. So for bolt action, I think it'd be really good to have those drab colors or even camouflage and then do all the weathering over the top. You can make them really stand out by having some bright orange as your rust. Or like patina effects could be your bright colors. And then the rest is very dark and morbid. So I won't do the whole tube. I'll just get started on that much of his oxygen tube. But you can see how easy it is when there's so many different contours. I'm just dragging the brush along all the raised parts and then leaving the blues, purples and pinks below. But yeah, haven't played Bolt Action. I've played some other mini war games like... we got into a game called Mercs because it was short, fast, fun models, squad-based skirmish, really entertaining. And it was a different style of system where basically using a single card to move around. And no pre-measuring, nothing like that. So there was room for lots of hilarity. And we made our own campaign. And then we always put off getting into Warhammer because of the scale and the price. But we got lured in by things like Gorka Morka and Kill Team and Necromunda. And then finally pulled the trigger. All right, I'm going to pick a lighter grey and we're going to continue on this helmet. I'll pick these ones. So, some of the highlights of the YouTube channel so far. In fact, I'm going to throw over to you, MT Speedcrafts again. What have been some of your highlights with having your own channel? So anyone new to the channel, I've mentioned it a couple of times now, but MT Speedcrafts has his own YouTube channel, which you most certainly need to check out. Where he designs and creates amazing dioramas. What have been some of the most exciting parts for you and the most rewarding bits of having a channel? Because there's lots of terrifying bits. And then I'll compare and see if we share the same or if I'm just miserable. Also, I hope you appreciate it. I got a fresh haircut for today. And obviously lied to the barber when he asked if I had something special. I was like, yeah, mate, yeah, it's a big lads footy trip stuff. Got to look good for, the town. All right, so lighter grey. Here's my wet palette. I've mixed lighter grey with the darker grey. Again, for that mid-tone. I'm going back to the helmet. And I'm going to pretty much paint in this pattern. I'll get to the sides in a second, but it's going to be just continuing that where I've chosen that my light source is from above. So the top of the helmet would be the shiniest, with down along the sides being the darkest. What do you got for me? Just how wholesome the making and building community is. You're absolutely right. I found it to be the same, that I was a nobody, no followers, started posting some of my painting work, and everyone's just really supportive. And then likewise with starting up the channel and making my first few videos, that no one had to watch and no one had to leave feedback or anything, but people do, and they say really nice stuff, even though I was clearly still very new, and I still am. Saying nice things and then sharing your work with other people. That's one of my favorite things, is when someone says, hey, I'm looking for a way to paint whatever, and then someone will drop one of my videos in and say, check out this guy, he painted it like this. He's not very funny, but the video was informative. Brutal. If you can sit through the jokes, you're halfway there. Let's have a look. Space Cat. Time to zoom in. Whoop. There we go. So I've got the dark, and then I've put that lighter grey over the top. And I'm going to go one step further with an even lighter grey, and then maybe almost a white. How are we going for time? Oh, loving this. 50 minutes. Easy. Too easy. It wasn't. What else have I got? One of my favourite things about having the channel is it's forced me to paint things I wouldn't normally paint. That previously I was just saying, oh, I'm wanting a Tyranid army, so I'm going to sit down for the next 6 months and that's all I will paint. And it became a lot of hard work. I absolutely love it because I end with an army. But this has been cool. I've painted factions and models that I'd never consider. I design things that I don't need. And then I end up with models that I don't need, which I love as well. I've got to think of something to do with them. At the moment, they decorate the shelves, which is cool. But I've got to think of what I'm going to start doing with all these models that I paint during the stream. The funniest is when it's a half painted model where I've gone, oh yeah, I'll show a technique. And then I do that, but the model's not finished. And then I go, now it's just sitting there. Cool. So now it's looking bright on top, dark on the sides. Let's go one step lighter and we'll call the top of the helmet done. Oh yeah, you got these huge dioramas. So yeah, I don't know what you're gonna do. You need to rent a place and just hide them there. Just store them on shelves. But at least that's impressive. Someone can come over and they can see a table full of dioramas and actually have something to look at. For me, they see a little cabinet with a bunch of tiny little action dolls with some paint on them and they just go, And it's evident that you've put a lot of work and you've created yours. Sometimes they look at mine and they just go, oh yeah, did you just like buy a little plastic toy and put it in there? I'm like, oh no, I painted it. And they go, oh yeah. Which is why I have the man cave. So that my wife can have her friends over and they don't know the sad side hobby that I have. She pretends I'm cool and hip, and then this is hidden away downstairs. This is where the boys and I come to play our board games. Boys as in the lads that are in the chat, but also my kids. We just come hide down here and play board games. My darling wife has requested you wear a Bob Ross wig while you paint. That is so cool. You can let her know I'm not that far off because the hair, she's starting to recede a little. So check the merch store for the wigs as they come, Wegman. All right, this helmet, I'm going to really quickly finish. I'm going to add some metallics to it just to make it evident that there are some metals going on, even though I'm painting in all greys. So I've got a tiny bit of Balthazar gold, which is just like a bronzy gold. Receding Rex over here. Oh, don't. I'll share that story because that was pretty funny. One of my little boys has started doing jiu-jitsu, which is just wrestling and cool submission moves for those not in the know, but like me. The instructor is absolutely hilarious and he's great with the kids. But one of the things he does, which warms my heart, is he finds a way to pay out all of the parents that are in the room without saying it directly to them. So he'll talk to the kids, but talk about the parents. So there's nothing you can do. You just have to take it. There's this awesome little stand-up routine that he's got going. It's like theatre sports. And one of the dads was a larger gentleman with some cool tats up his arms and stuff. A really rough looking dude, the sort of dude that you don't want to upset if you're a jiu-jitsu teacher. But he was chatting to one of the kids and said something along the lines of, you need to learn this move to be able to defend yourself because one day you'll have someone like Seafood Gary over here that'll try and choke you out or bully you. It made me laugh. And his dad, Seafood Gary, just went like, I was like, cop that. You can't do anything. You can't yell out. So we started to come up with ideas of what the burn would be for me from the instructor. And we figured that something along the lines of receding Rex was coming my way. But thank you, Paul Godson, for bringing that up. That's made my day. So Dingles, were you here when we spoke about the fact that my basement has flooded? So the first half an hour before the stream started was me just emptying out buckets of water from downstairs. Fishing emoji. Thank you. Yes, which is plan B for the channel. If the water keeps coming in, I'm just going to drop some fish in here, turn the cameras around to the ground, and it'll be a peaceful channel where we can watch fish. So I've got some metallics on there. What are we at? 55 minutes. We can do this, people. I can add another couple of highlights. In fact, I'm going to add some highlights to these tubes and up the top. Look at this. Look at that speedy highlight. So I think for streams, what I might do in the future is pretty much whatever I'm working on at the time, video-wise. I'll just have the stream capture where I'm at and continue with it. It's obviously a tall order for me to try and paint a decent mini in an hour because I'm a really slow painter, if you haven't picked up on that yet. But yeah, I reckon I could say let's take my Blood Angels video for example, and I'm halfway through my stippling of whatever Space Marine. I just go cool and turn the stream on and do something like that. I was not, but given it's still raining, I figured as much. Yeah, it's the tradition here is we have our board game nights in this room as well, and if there's been heavy rain, then everyone has to wear gumboots and be prepared for carp to swim around their legs. So we're getting to the business end of the stream. But again, thank you so much to everyone that has jumped in and had a watch. You'll have to let me know afterwards as well what you thought, what I need to do different next time. I hope it's been semi-engaging having one camera on me and then obviously the main camera on Space Cat where you at. But yeah, I know that the feedback from Dingles is going to be that there needs to be less of me and more of the painting. Shut up and paint, as Paul calls it. But yeah, definitely give me some feedback on what works and what doesn't. I can't believe I told the story about Seafood Gary. I feel bad. I should probably reach out to him. I hope he's doing well. All right. I wanted to do some highlights on the actual cat, but those paints just aren't drying this morning. So what can I do? I reckon I can wet blend a bit of orange with yellow. Whoop. There we go. And just get a few cheeky highlights, even though they're wet, onto his fur. Someone who I told about the stream is texting me while I'm doing this, but they're clearly about 20 minutes or half an hour behind in the stream, and they're commenting on what we're talking about. I'm just like, well, no, you got to have it on live, and then you interact in here. But I love it. So someone just commented about sour straps, which I think was us at PAX. All right, let's get some highlights on his wet. So all around the nose and the cheeks. This is where the raised area is most prominent, where people are going to look. Let's get some lighter colors in there. And again, I wouldn't normally wet blend, but it's working. Then we can pick out some spots like on the tail. If it was a rougher fur, I would dry brush, but it's not. It's in these like little streaky fur patterns. So I've got a thin brush and I'm just dragging across. Even though some will get into the shadows, it still gives the impression that it's a highlight. Got to do the nails of the cat. They don't like it when you touch their nails and their feet. Also, has anyone noticed that I've got a cat t-shirt in a space helmet, and I'm painting a cat in a space helmet? That was not planned. It was planned up to the point where I actually opened my drawers and I pulled out this shirt and went, oh my God, I can't believe I have a shirt with the same picture. I mean, no, this is the level of detail I go to just for painting on this channel. You're welcome. Okay. It's not looking exactly how I planned, but it's still pretty funny. We are at the 1 hour mark and I've got to there. And I'm almost running out of stuff to talk about today, unless you got other things you want to ask me, because then I'll get back to emptying buckets of water out of my basement. The cool thing is though, the stream has remained in pretty good condition, it said so far. Did anyone have any connectivity issues Was it dropping out or freezing or buffering or anything like that? It's always timely to discuss sour straps. I agree. The thing that gets me with packs is we've been going for so many years, and every year I still try and buy the fudge from the fudge stand, and I'm always disappointed. That's not to diss on their company. Turns out I just don't like fudge as much as I think I do every time I see it. And I always pick out bizarre flavors like watermelon fudge. All good for you. Unreal. Cool. Well, I'll keep the settings on this for next time if I do another one. If there's amazing demand for it. But thank you all so much. I'll probably end up finishing painting this model today, and then I'll post something on the socials to let you guys know how I went. But all good on my end. Thank you so much, Mason. Everyone else, if you're here in the next 24 hours or so, I'll be putting up a video that will be all about another painting guide. Definitely check out Mason's video after this when you get a chance. You'll see those dioramas that I've been talking about. Again, the U-boat in the pen is probably my favorite, but your work with snow and other stuff is sick. So yeah, treat yourself. Sunday morning here, our time. And for all those over in the UK and the US, enjoy your afternoon. Thank you so much for entertaining me. I'll finish with a couple of different screenshots so I can use the rest of the camera angles I set up. So there's Space Cat. He's absolutely loving it. He's ready for his next tour of the Nemesis board game. And with the floor, I reckon I'll end up painting that really dark so that he stands out a bit more. And then we'll jump across to me, Rose. Thank you so much for watching. This has been unreal. And then if you're keen on another one, let me know. Thank you so much, Wegs. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of it. That was really fun. And I managed to get through it. It was terrifying. But I'll chat to you all soon. Thanks again. See you, bye.